Good morning, everyone. Good morning. By a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the reality TV show series Survivor? Most everybody. What you probably didn't know is that I starred in the original version back in 1975, the non-televised version, when as a 10-year-old newcomer to this country, I was transplanted to the Midwest and expected to outwit, outplay, and outlast. My name's Nathaniel, and I've been asked to tell you a little bit about myself this morning. Born in Morocco on an American naval base and raised in Central America and the Far East, imagine transferring from an international school to the total culture shock of life in the rural Midwest. I was a short and skinny kid with strange clothes, a strange way of talking, and, believe it or not, a magnificent afro. To my new classmates, 6-foot-tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed farm boys, I must have looked like an exotic combination of Epstein from Welcome Back, Kotter, Screech from Saved by the Bell, and unfortunately Tattoo from Fantasy Island. It was not only intimidating, but as an outsider, it made me a target for bullies from day one. In order to survive, though, I developed strategies that would later play crucial roles in both my professional and personal lives. In a matter of a few short months, I learned to adapt and even organize my neighborhood like an Afghani tribal warlord, making the games more elaborate, the rewards bigger, the weapons cooler, and we even formed our own language. I learned by using differentiation strategies that I could actually outplay, outlast, and outwit the others around me. During college, I was interviewing for my first sales job with Norwest Mortgage when the interviewer wittingly handed me a pencil and asked me to test my sales skill and asked me to sell it back to him. Rather than going into a long descriptive pitch, I took the pencil, snapped it in two, handed it back to him, and said, "You need a new pencil." After the initial shock, he laughed and said, "You start tomorrow." While not the most conventional approach, I was nervous and really needed the job. My early childhood tribal collaborations had taught me creative skills of thinking outside the box. Being on straight commission was tough, but learning how to outplay my competition by offering services unheard of at the time, such as working Sunday hours, providing realtors with financial training, and taking applications on site, helped me accomplish my goal of making my first six-figure income by the time I was 23. And thanks to the mentoring of a great boss, I would remain on the Mortgage Bankers Association top 10% list for the following 4 years. It was around that time I received a call from my dad asking me to come take over sales at his cable TV and satellite communications company. I seized the opportunity, and together we grew, in 2.5 years, we grew the company 1,400%, ranking it Kansas City's 5th fastest growing company. Then in 1993, I caught my first glimpse of the internet. It looked like nothing we know today. I was mesmerized by the ability to instantly communicate globally without incurring long-distance charges. I wanted to learn more, so I called the only internet service provider around that time to subscribe to their service. This company had been started by 2 techie teenagers, and they were receiving amazing press coverage. I just couldn't believe, though, that after 2 weeks of leaving them daily messages to sign up for their service, not one of my calls was ever returned. It was then I had an epiphany. If they are so busy that they can't cater to new potential customers, maybe I should. And I will. And I did. It took 6 months, but after hitting the streets and knocking on doors to pre-sell this service, I had convinced nearly 200 companies to commit to us in advance of our company launch. So armed with 2 phone lines, modems, and a server, Q Networks was ready to open for business. Almost. The only problem is that we needed customer service people to handle the tech support calls, and since hardly anybody knew anything about the internet at that time, I did what any desperate CEO does in times of need. I called my mom. She suggested I contact my old high school, so I convinced the computer lab teacher to allow me 5 minutes to pitch my company and tell the students about these job openings I had available for anyone that knew something about the internet. As I was leaving them my contact information, 3 of them rushed me with freshly printed resumes. I hired them all on the spot. We now had employees, and we were ready to open for business. From the onset, I knew that in order to outplay our competition, we had to provide exemplary customer service, something our competitors had ignored. We spent countless hours training our staff, role-playing, mastering phone techniques in order to take care of our customers so that no one else would. Q Networks was profitable by our 7th month. We were also the first internet service provider in the country to offer unlimited internet access for a flat monthly rate. That was a strategic gamble that would later become the industry norm. We even had a mobile installation team that would go to customers' premise if they had trouble connecting to us. As a result, CityNet ranked us one of the top 5 internet providers in the country. Our annual growth rate was a staggering 250% every year, and 93% of our new business came from customer referrals. We realized that we had outplayed the competition a few years later when Bank of America awarded us Small Business of the Year at halftime during a televised Monday night football game. You see, the key to our success was very simple. We never discounted the importance of the human touch. Though we were considered an innovation and high-tech company, people always came first. One day I overheard that our customer service team had taken it upon themselves to collect money to pay for an internet account for a terminally ill teenager named Travis so that he could access his homework from school. The gesture hit me so deeply that shortly after, I asked Gateway Computers to help me in a program called Kids on Q, where they provided free computers and we provided unlimited internet access to any terminally ill child. It was our way of stepping up to the plate and giving back to the community that gave us so much. Unfortunately, Travis passed away the day after his high school graduation. His father would later call to thank us for making Travis's life easier and told me about the kindness of our staff who had become pen pals with him until his final days. That day opened a new chapter in my life. It was then I realized that the true meaning of success wasn't gauged solely by the game of survival, but rather that true success is measured by how much you give without ever counting. After the sale of Q Networks, I moved to Florida and took a couple of years off, married my wife, we traveled a little, and we started our own family. And since that time, I've founded, built, and consulted over a dozen companies ranging from private cable TV to internet service providers, software developers, franchised a chain of back and pain centers, created our own English fish fry batter mix, and have jointly developed over 30 mobile apps. I also founded Hackseed, one of the first technology accelerators to help mentor young tech entrepreneurs and provide them with seed funding in order to enable them the ability to pursue their entrepreneurial dreams. We also run a horse ranch by the same name, and when I'm not mentoring entrepreneurs or tending to equines, I provide business consultancy and differentiation strategies for next level growth companies, as well as turnarounds. Having had the opportunity to work with some of the greatest minds in business and technology today, I'm honored I could share some of those stories with this distinguished forum. I'd like to thank Seth Warner and my friend Shelley for inviting me here today. It's truly an honor and a privilege, and as Jeff Probst, the host of Survivor, concludes each weekly council meeting, the tribe has spoken. It's time for me to go. Thank you and God bless.